I stared at the crumbling bricks of my childhood home, a space once filled with laughter that now echoed with the tension of unspoken disdain. The wind howled like a banshee, whipping through the overgrown garden where I had once played, where I had once been whole. And here I stood, a pariah turned expert, preparing to face the family who had cast me away into the world of darkness I now knew intimately. Years ago, the neighborhood had erupted in panic over a mysterious outbreak of parasitic infections. The whispers twisted around me like a noose, tightening with every day spent investigating the connection between folklore and biology. Unhinged, they called me. Delusional. I could still hear my mother's voice, thick with disappointment, shrieking that I would disgrace our family with such nonsense. I had fled, driven by the need to uncover truths that no one else dared to confront. I immersed myself in the shadows of the unexamined old tomes of myth and biology that spoke of ancient rituals carried on the backs of worms and fungi, parasitic horrors that feasted not just on flesh, but on fear itself. I found a kind of comfort there, in the raw, visceral truths hidden behind the laughable masks of folklore. But as the years rolled on, I emerged not as the delusional fool they had warned about, but as a renowned occult entomologist, celebrated for exposing horrors they could scarcely talk about. I gained recognition, a chilling reputation, as a harbinger of dark knowledge. I felt it was time to come home, to confront the family who had shunned me, to show them the monsters that lurked in the fabric of our reality. They needed to see, needed to witness the weight of their disbelief. I stepped onto the front porch, the wooden boards creaking under my weight, a ghost of what once. The door swung open, revealing my mother, her face pale and framed by an unkempt halo of gray hair. The moment her eyes landed on me, I saw a flicker of recognition, coupled with a storm of emotions too complex to decipher. Silently, she stepped aside, allowing me to enter. The air was stifled with memories, each room a mausoleum of laughter, now become bitter silence. My father sat at the kitchen table, lifting his head at the sound of my footsteps, his brow furrowed. And a flash of resentment sparked in his eyes. "You shouldn't have come back," he said, voice heavy with the weight of old grudges. "You're still the disgrace we all said you were." As I took a seat opposite him, I felt the penetrating cold of their judgment wrap around me like a shroud. "You don't understand," I said, my voice trembling with urgency. "It's beyond anything you could ever imagine." My mother scoffed, dismissive. "What have you become? Look at yourself. This obsession, it will consume you." I leaned forward, the shadows of the room stretching like fingers reaching for my truth. "That's just it. It already has." With a flick of my wrist, I pulled out the jar from my bag, a glass vessel filled with twisted, writhing shapes. The light caught it and flared, punctuating the darkness surrounding us with a sickly glow. "These are the ensnared," I explained. "Parasites that go beyond the physical, drawn to the pain and fear we cultivate. They thrive in our shadows." My father's face turned from scorn to horror as he peered closer, the writhing forms casting grotesque reflections on his skin. My mother gasped, recoiling as if she had touched something burning. "You're playing with forces you don't understand." Ignoring her, I pressed on, revealing more of what I had encountered over the years. The rituals, the dark ceremonies that use these parasites to tap into humanity's despair. They feast on our anguish, thrive on our nightmares. They're not just infections, they're manifestations of everything we ignore, everything we deny. Just as I thought I had made a breakthrough, the jar rattled violently, the parasites within twisting more feverishly. The lights flickered, casting ominous shadows that danced across the room. A tremor rippled through the walls, a low rumble that felt deeply alive in a way that made my skin crawl. "What is happening?" My mother screamed, clutching at my father's arm, her voice quaking with fear. "Something is coming," I murmured, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. I had uncovered so much, and I had known that this moment would come. But now, faced with the reality, the fear was paralyzing. Suddenly the shadows leapt, spilling from the walls, writhing and coiling toward us like a hungry serpent. In that moment, I witnessed the truth of my family's disbelief. What they saw as simple obsession was a portal to a horror they had never acknowledged. "Open your eyes!" I shouted, as the darkness surged forward, manifesting the very parasites I had studied, now free and ravenous. They clawed through the air, forcing all of us to confront what we had buried deep within our hearts. The room erupted into chaos. Screams filled the air as my family fled from the very shadows they had ridiculed. I watched them scatter, and for the first time, I felt a sense of vindication. The cost of their disbelief had finally been laid bare before them, and there was nothing I could do to save them from what they had allowed to grow in their neglect. As the last remnants of my family disappeared into the dark, I felt a wave of bittersweet calm wash over me. I had become the vessel of truth, a testament to the horrors buried beneath the surface of their denial. Now, standing amid the chaos, I turned back to the jar in my hand, the writhing mass of the ensnared, and whispered, "Let it begin." The walls shuddered as I felt the deep, profound resonance of fate echoing. I had returned not merely to confront my past, but to become its reckoning. The darkness had claimed its due, and I was its reluctant emissary, the harbinger of truth that they had once mocked. This was no longer about proving them wrong. This was about embracing the shadows and all they represented, a cycle of understanding that had finally come full circle. Sometimes, what one cannot see is the most dangerous of all.